All right, so kind of picking up where we left off, I have gone through some of the basics here. Remember the menu down the left was our chocolate items, but they're now kind of all spread out. I made it bigger.
Oh, thank
I
you.
did. It was awful tiny.
Oh, thank you.
One other,
I had a hard time reading it.
and I appreciate you not saying a word about it.
I didn't.
And everyone was so biddable and
Started
nice.
to one time and I thought,
So that's one of the things about Fusion is it wants to make everything fit to one screen, which is good if you're going to print, right? That's helpful to not have it overflow to that annoying little one sentence on one page. The con to that, because you know there's a pro and a con, right, is that sometimes it makes it kind of tiny and hard to read. I changed the resolution on my computer, which is how I made it bigger up there, okay? So in your browser, you're kind of used to maybe going up here and making it 200% and making the window bigger that way. That does not work for Fusion because Fusion is Flash. It's kind of a glorified graphic,
so
basically.
how'd you change it?
You have to go to the control panel to the display settings and change the resolution. So 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768 works the best. 1024 by 768. And that has to do 768.
768.
And that has to do with the TV I'm connected to. It looked just fine on my screen, but it looked tiny up there because of the resolution of the thing I'm plugged into. So again, it's going to vary from computer to computer, but there is a way to fix that. Also, short and sweet way to fix it, this little slider right here. Again, I'm now over 40 and I keep my glasses in my purse because I'm not to the point where I can accept that I have to put them on my face. But this little slider right here is I can still cheat a little bit. If you slide that, it makes what's on your screen bigger. Doesn't change how it prints, doesn't change what you send to your client, but I can pretend, thank goodness I'm not to 200% yet, 125% still, I can get away with that. So that'll help you.
When you print that with that.
It'll just fit to one page. So it is what it is when it prints. It is what it is when it prints.
I didn't hear you.
It is what it is when it prints.
Oh,
You can't really change the print size, but you can change what you're looking at on the screen.
So in other words, if it's big and I print it, it's going to be big.
No, it'll print the same size no matter what your screen looks like.
Even when you do the 1024 to the 768.
Won't make a difference. That's correct.
That's just
Screen resolution is only what you're looking at.
On the computer.
Only affects what you're looking at on your end.
just what we all
Okay. All right, so a couple of extra little bells and whistles here. We talked about the report of violation, where we're going to be friendly and helpful to HAR and the consumer, right? It isn't just ratting out your friends, it's helping the consumer get the most accurate data possible. So if you notice something that needs to be corrected, let us know. If it violates a rule, we'll go through that whole process of potential fine and whatever. But if you just notice something that needs help, let us know that too. We've got 60,000 plus listings and we just can't possibly find all the things in there that might be wrong. We don't have a way to know if it's in the wrong MLS area. We just presume it's been put in the right one. So little things like that. Also down here at the bottom, you've got, I won't go quite that far and tease you. I have the real list links because I'm beta testing it, so you don't have those yet. Y'all will probably end here. Teradatum is another word to throw at you, your vocabulary lesson for today. Teradatum is basically some reports that you can do. So if I were to click Teradatum, I'll get some average days on market, median price, average maximum median list price, days on market, sales prices, things like that. So some really good statistical pieces. You can kind of barely see it says location, meaning city, or zip. So those are kind of a broad spectrum kind of reports. It jumps off from this one listing, but it's not specific to the one listing. So whatever zip code this house happens to be in is what the Teradatum report will give me statistical information on. Again, it's market information more than detailed statistics. It's hard for my mouth, statistics. So while that's taking a moment to load, I will mention again, probably December-ish, late December is when the Realist, the new tax system will launch, but still Stewart Title will run side by side, so you won't have to change immediately, but change will be imminent. So they're already on Stewart. Realist will launch, yeah. So this is the Teradatum report. So again, you can see the different sections: median, closed, new listing, under contract, so on and so forth. If you click that particular little chart, it gives you a bigger chart that you can copy, paste, print, whatever you'd like to do with that. And here's a quick little cheat. If you click Revise Search, hiding in plain sight up there at the top, you can start a search from scratch. So instead of just only the zip code I happen to be in or the city I'm in, I can now pick and choose sort of what I want to report about. And the bonus here is I can now do a subdivision report, which I couldn't automatically get. So bonus content for you, super secret stuff here. So if you wanted to do that, you could. So the trick is open any Teradata report and then hit Revise to start and do something from scratch. So I could tell by your faces that you couldn't wait to go out and create some custom local market reports. So I wanted to be sure that you were aware of that. All right, so we talked a little bit about the stuff on the left, the stuff in the middle. Now let's move up just a bit. Pretty much anything in the blue bar is agent-centric. So any screen in Fusion where you see something in blue, that's agent-centric stuff. We've got these little arrows back and forth so I can navigate through the next listing or the previous listing by using those little buttons. I'm very simple-minded, so little things just make me really happy. Let's say hypothetically I'm focused on this lot description field. That's real important to my client, so I'm looking there for whatever reason, okay? If I click to go to the next property, Fusion will stay in that place. So if I'm focused on the photos or the sales price information or the tax details or whatever it is, wherever I am, it stays and goes from one property to the next. In Tempo, it jumps you back up to the top and you have to scroll down again. So minor little difference, but simple things in life make me very happy. So backwards and forwards, you've got that option as well. We have the little select box here. Remember, we checked the box to the left of the properties back in the results grid. I can select and unselect from here as well. Okay, I can switch from selected and unselected. Again, I'm just focused on those 9, but I have 28 total, so I can go back and get those other 28 and continue to sort and look through those if I want. I can also, from this drop down, just jump to any particular property that I might want to. Okay. If I want to go back to the results grid, where do I go?
The results.
The results. Results. Right. Like I say, it makes sense now, right? It just wasn't super intuitive at first. It's hiding in plain sight. So if at any point you want to go back to the grid, you just click results and you're back there.
Okay, I'm going to go back to my question from previously. Once
Okay.
you're in that map and you want to draw a polygon, say I don't want anything east of I-45, I want what's west of I-45.
We are going to talk about the search by map in the very next one. That's technically part of the advanced class, but that's one of those bonus content things I show you because I think it's crucial to what we're doing. I'm going to be a little mean and make you wait even longer. I apologize. I'll be really nice though in a minute to draw on the map and use that as criteria. So just the last couple of things I want to finish out real quickly on this, the functions from getting your results list, looking at them, working with them, to getting them out of here to a client. So back on the results grid, anything in blue, remember, is agent-centric. We talked about our sort and filter and the map, just looking at the map. Right now I'm just only seeing results on a map. Images is kind of a flip book of the property photos, the main property photo only. So it'll show whatever the listing agents put in that #1 slot, basically. So you can see here, this is the picture for Imperial Leaf, I think it is. It's a little bit darker blue, so you can kind of see that it's selected. If you click any property, it jumps to that picture, or you can just click the edge of the photo and it'll kind of scroll through the pictures, backwards, forwards, whatever it is, okay?
Are those all pictures in the one listing that is selected, or is it flipping through all of them?
It's flipping through all of them. It's just the #1 photo for each of these listings. And again, it's real subtle, but this one's highlighted a little bit darker blue. So this picture goes with that property, okay? And as I flip through, you'll notice it gets highlighted on the next, okay? So if they say something like, I don't want a house that's made of stucco, that's hard to search by sometimes, right? Or I want a big bright kitchen, that's really hard to search by in MLS. You just kind of have to look. So sometimes skimming through photos in different ways can help you with that. Apparently the fronts of these houses are nothing remarkable at all, but the backyards are amazing. So we have those as our primary photo in MLS. So that's images. We'll skip just over these because that's, again, advanced. We'll talk about that another day. And then on the very far left, it'll always default to this results grid. But if you click this one, some people jokingly refer to that as the six-pack icon, the little 6 squares in a row. If you click that, it gives you just a little bit different way to look at it. I call it the thumbnail view. They call it their gallery view. It gives you a little thumbnail picture and then just kind of the basic core stuff. The list price, the listing agent's name, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms. So again, just kind of the major stuff you might want to know. You've got your select and unselect box right there. You got your chiclet. So if you want to hover on the chiclet and look at the icons there, or if you want to click your magnifying glass to get to the full detail, you can do that from here as well. Also in the top right of the little thumbnail, there's a button. It says 1/30, 1/32, so on. That's telling me that the listing agents put 32 photos total. If you click the button, you can skim through the little tiny thumbnail versions of them. So just real quickly, again, if I wanted to just kind of quick preview, I could do that there. If I click the picture itself, it opens the full photo gallery where I can see the bigger versions or the big est version like we did before.
Okay, Paul, yeah, what is that?
I was going to ask, I was trying to recall that I was on camera and not go, what is that?
It could be the well, because that's on acreage.
Potentially. And apparently you climb up into the well with a ladder. I don't know. It's an interesting little, lovely feature.
I think it is.
And we could look at...
That's where the husband goes when he's in trouble.
Yeah, that's right. Let's see, where was that? Let's see. It looks like maybe like a little cabana TV room. See, there's a little television, well, not little, but there's a TV back there.
You can't blow that up.
Can't believe it's still active.
It
I
says...
saw that over the weekend and looked at it. And I thought, is it a stockade to fight off the Indians?
I was going to say, is it a gun turret? That was my remark. But it says another view looking out into the house and water tower / pool equipment room. So it's a water tower / pool equipment room.
They had no water pressure on the well. That's
I guess so. So they must have a water tank, elevated water tank, because they ran out of water in the well or they didn't have enough pressure.
to handle that, and it causes making the toilets.
Yes. Gravity can work in your favor for free, or you can spend some money on a pump or whatever. So we all looked, it worked. We all had an interest in the property, right? So on that level, I didn't say it was a good interest. I just said it was an interest.
Any attentions?
So something like that, right? All PR is good PR or whatever. So that's just another way to look at the properties. Again, this is just only agent stuff on the screen that we're looking at. Maybe not, maybe not. And again, it'll always default to the grid, so this kind of one-liner view. One little thing that I did forget to show you, the price change. We talked about that. And remember, hover is your best friend. If you hover on the price, nothing happens at all. If you hover on the very little bitty, teeny tiny, itty bitty arrow, though, you get this little pop out that tells you the latest reduction. So this was reduced 3.5% from the previous price of $310,000 down to what it is now. I don't know when that price change occurred from this little pop out or sneak peek, and I don't know if it's ever been reduced or the price has changed before. Where would I go to find that out? Property Archive, my PARR, right? My PAR report. So again, I can get to that from here in my chiclet items. Also, one important fact to note, days on market is listed in Fusion. Cumulative days is not automatically listed. So in Tempo, here's a pro for Tempo. Tempo has an asterisk. So I know right away that's the days on market, but there's more to the story because there's a little asterisk. Fusion, unfortunately, does not have that little asterisk here. So here's my Maryland workaround. Several different options. I can open the Property Archive report for every single solitary one of these. I only have 9. It won't take me forever. Not the biggest pain that there could be, but not exactly convenient, right? The other kind of workaround for it is if you check the boxes here, I've checked them all, okay? If you go to this little report in the top right, the quick CMA, quick like lightning, see the little lightning bolt on it? That'll give you the information all in one fell swoop. It'll show you a column for cumulative as well as regular days on market. Okay, and it's kind of squished because of the way it's projecting from my computer. So give me just a second here and I'll show that to you where you can see all the columns. You don't have to do this in real life, by the way. This is just only if you're teaching a class thing. So you can see right here there's a column for days, DOM, and then a column for cumulative days. And in this case, it all happens to be the exact same thing, so no big differences there. What's the big importance of
So why are they, if it had been listed before and somebody else got it new, would that number be different
Potentially, yes.
in those two columns?
Again, perfect timing on her question. What is a cumulative day on the market? How do we count that? If you look at the property archive report, anything highlighted in blue means it's sold. We don't care. We don't count anymore, right? Once it's sold, that was a complete little package, nice tidy bow, done. If it has came on the market, let's say, and then it terminated or expired, and then they listed it again, and then it terminated or expired, and they listed it again, that happens, right? As long as that gap was not 6 months or longer, and the property did not sell, we keep counting, because that's really, really how long it is taking for that property to sell. In this case, the numbers all match, they're the same, not really sure what's going on there with that one property that has no cumulative days listed, just ignore that up there though until I can figure out why that is. But if there had been, you'll often see, 25 days on the market, but the cumulative count could be 942. Okay, so it could sit there quite a long time. And what's the importance of that knowledge? That's really how long this property is taking to sell because of, we don't know exactly. It could potentially not be, could be the condition, it could potentially not be priced correctly, maybe it has no bedrooms, who knows, right? We don't really know. Maybe the water tower is really not that attractive, right? So
The least days, the most days, and the average days.
it would, yes, down in these columns it would do that, okay? The regular days on market is only counting the time it's had that one MLS number. Okay, so even if it was listed with the same agent over and over, we only count that one MLS number's days in the regular days on market. Does that make sense?
I have a question.
Sure.
Okay, when it goes into sold in tempo, all the data is removed, like the floor plan, if the agent had it, or just the docs.
We keep everything for up to 2 years. So it should be there for at least 2 years for you.
Some are gone maybe the agent has.
The agent's probably deleting them.
Does it stay in?
Yes, yes. We will guarantee data up to 2 years from closing date. We can't help it if the listing agent goes in there, deletes everything first, and then puts their listing into sold, which unfortunately some
If I have
do.
one in Fusion and I have all the docs there and it sells, can I remove those before?
Not after you change the
Well,
stuff.
You
There are
could.
agents that do.
There are agents that do. That can be done.
That's what I'm asking.
That can be done. Do I have an opinion on whether you should or not? That would be not something I would say in front of a class.
Where it comes in really handy is I have some lease listings that sometimes come back after a couple of years. They had a tenant in them, and I can come back and I just reinstate the listing, get a new tenant, and I didn't have to do all that work. So more than 2 years would be good.
Well, it's a look back at history too, even if you're selling.
Yeah, and you got somebody, even if you're trying to sell something else in the neighborhood, you want to go back and look and see.
That's right.
What you did
We
there.
would hope to have as complete a set of data as we possibly could. So we would hope that all of the data that was on the listing at the time it sold would remain there once it moves into the sold status. The end. We can't control what people do once they have control over typing it though. So that's a little lesson on cumulative days on market. The longer it stays on the market, it tends to favor the buyer, right? If it's been on the market for 942 days, the seller will give you their firstborn child or their car or whatever, just please buy the house, right? Potentially. So that's generally, stereotypically, where your cumulative days. So again, you've got that little exercise of clicking them all, go to the CMA, the quick CMA, and quickly determine whether it's got cumulative days, and then go from there. In the advanced class too, also this whole section that we skipped, you can add columns, remove columns. If I wanted as part of my default view, I could have a column called cumulative days on the market. so I could have both on there. So I'll be glad to email you some steps for that if you email me and ask me for them. Or I possibly could come back and teach the class. So January. All right. So moving up to our black and white kind of toolbar, the blue stuff was all agent-centric, and now the black and white toolbar stuff is all consumer-centric. So the first button is Save Search, and I'm sure you can deduce what that means. You're going to save it, right? Here's a small other counterintuitive sort of function. If you give it a name and click Save, that is only for you. It's a custom search. Remember earlier when I hovered on single family, I had a ton of stuff in that list. Those are all my saved searches just for me. I click it and I run it whenever I want, okay? Here's segue into another class, which I'm not teaching so much today, but I like to give you, again, kind of an overview of that process. The auto notification that I talked about earlier. I want to save a search and have the system automatically send stuff to my client whenever properties meet that criteria. Pretend this button says notification set up instead of notification settings, okay? So now I can go to, give it a name, set up the notification, attach it to a client, and it'll start emailing them properties that meet this criteria, okay? So save is only for me. Notifications have to do with notifying somebody else. So that kind of makes it make more sense. This is the big important key to it all. Check the little bitty itty bitty teeny tiny box to turn on the auto notification or enable that automation. Then you're simply going to add an existing contact, choose an existing contact rather, or add a brand new one. Again, my tiny little icon right there, the plus is to add a person from scratch. So I'd put their name, their email, and then 4 steps total. Frequency, defaults to ASAP. That's the main sort of difference between Tempo and Fusion. Remember, they get real-time updates. The moment a new listing, price change, status change, and even now photos added for the first time. They're automatically notified right away. Tempo is once a day, between about 2 and 4 in the morning. Contact email would be the client's information. Your last of the 4 steps is whether you want a carbon copy of everything or nothing. Okay? You want a carbon copy of all your client stuff or you don't. Okay?
Go back to settings.
Okay.
What is the allow reverse prospecting?
That is not there. Pretend you're not seeing that. That's just a little, another feature I have that that won't be enabled anytime soon. So,
So after 180 days, you have to go back and do it again?
yes, it'll email you 7 days prior to that and say this client's going to stop receiving auto notifications. Do you want to extend it or do you want to let it go? And so you won't have to remember that it's going to be 180 days. It'll notify you.
When you save the search,
Mhm.
let's say, I'm new, so I don't know application yet.
That's
but,
okay.
You'd want to save that specific search, maybe like, the Griffins search, or would you save it in, like,
I usually try to give the search name, sorry I kind of cut you off, but I usually try to give the search, make the search name something relating to the search. Homes in Alden Bridge, 250 to 350, something like that. If I call it if I call it the Smiths, maybe one week they wanted one thing, maybe next week they wanted another. Like she said, she's got a rental that comes up a couple of, maybe I've got a buyer, a repeat client. So it kind of gets confusing sometimes if you just only put their name. There's a field for description on the previous screen, but it doesn't actually show up anywhere. So your kind of best bet is to name it something that makes sense. Make sure it makes sense to the client as well, because the client sees the name. So stupid guy search, not a good idea. Not a good idea. Never gonna find a house, not the best search name. All right. So again, I realized that was the super fast Cliff Notes version of Client Gateway.
I've got some of those. I could, that's why I don't like
That'd be geographic or something.
A little, yes. Something slightly differently descriptive would be better. So the next button over is email, and I know you know what an email is. I know you know what that button means. It does give you a couple of options. If you click email, you can send just the one record you happen to be highlighted or clicked on at that moment. Only the 9 records we have selected, or all up to 500. Remember, I can work with a grand total of 500. So I can email, I can print, I can map, I can look at 500. I don't know why you would want to print 500, but you could. So in this case, I only have the 9 visible, but remember, if I go back to my list of 28, I'd have the option then to print all 28 or email all 28. So anything down here that is shareable with the client is always going to be client-centric, meaning it strips off the listing agent information, the appointment information, all that realtor-centric stuff. We don't want that going to a consumer, so it automatically takes those off. So anything that says the word buyer in front of it means consumer or client appropriate. You don't have anything called buyer full anymore because it's kind of incorporated into the regular buyer full photo. I apologize. You don't have something called buyer full photo because it's in the buyer full. Okay. So if I click buyer full, we'll look at it here. This is what the client would get. And so it gives them the screen kind of like what we're used to, and then if they click the picture, they can see all the rest of the pictures and kind of a photo gallery. So it's, if you're sending something to,
you might want to tell them.
that's right. If you were working with somebody and they were getting that buyer full and they were used to that layout, be sure to let them know it's different. The photo gallery tab right there is the page that they're used to seeing. Okay. So that would be the kind of view that they were used to seeing on the second page of that buyer full photo. But yes, be sure to include in your little message to them, click the picture and you can see the rest of the pictures. And then there's print and close, printer-friendly pages back here for the client as well. And in this case, I emailed them several properties, so they have a little drop down to jump from one property to the next, or the button to navigate from one to the next to the next. Okay. Print back in Fusion. Our print button is kind of the same in that it gives you those multiple options. So just one particular property that I selected, or all up to 500. And again, I've got a couple of choices here. The results grid is kind of that one-liner page that I'm looking at on the screen behind it. A report, quote unquote, means agent full, buyer short, those kind of layouts. So you can easily see here, you can check boxes and do all your client and your own printouts all at one time. Also, you can convert it to PDF if you need to do that from here, if you wanted. And lastly, on the print button, something that's fairly new, it's about a month-ish old, a couple weeks, is this labels option. We talked a little bit earlier, I just barely kind of in passing mentioned expired listings and pursuing those for listing your own listings. If you wanted to run a list of all the expireds in a certain neighborhood, say, click labels, print them out. Now you have nice automatic, clean, pretty labels, stick them on a postcard, a letter, whatever you might want to do, and begin marketing those. Sold properties, active properties, whatever, just be real careful how you use that, of course.
When you hit print.
Only shows up when you print, that's right. Emailing is, it doesn't give you that option for email. Okay?
Okay, so the labels, that's for actual labels, address labels?
Like the little 2 by 4 inch
Okay.
stickers that you would put on a postcard or whatever, exactly. Yep. Okay. So the next one over, finally we're answering your question. I'm still continuing to be unkind to her and making her wait even longer, but the car will give us driving directions. Okay, so if we click the little yellow car, again, super grown-up technical stuff here, the little yellow cartoony car, anything up top is consumer-centric and relates to multiple properties at one time, potentially.
Say that again.
Anything up in the black and white toolbar relates to potentially multiple properties at one time. I can email all of these, or I can print all these, or I can drive to all these. Anything in the chiclet is specific just to that one property. There's a little car here, completely different because it's red and forward facing, right? So clearly it's a different kind of car. That's driving directions just to that one house, whereas this is planning a route. I want to show the properties, multiple properties with this little yellow car.
What is the default on how it sends you? Does it do them in order that they're listed?
It does them in the order of the grid.
And so you probably
So if I sort by price, or if I sort by subdivision or whatever, it'll default there, but I can rearrange them very easily.
You're going to show us
I'm going to show you how. So we check a few, and then we look at them, and then because I don't want to, I'm not going to do all 9. Okay, so off to the side here, first of all, I've got a little X. So I call CSS and they say, oh, so sorry, no showings on that property today. I can simply just take it out of the mix. Let's say hypothetically number 3, I can't go there today. So now it's no longer in the driving directions. It's still selected back here on my grid. It didn't change anything about what I was looking at. It's just affecting driving directions. And again, just because I want to narrow this down a little and not have to do quite so many for my example here. We'll just pretend like these 4 is what it ended up, okay? To start, I can add another location. It knows where you live based on your HAR record. So it'll know your office address here. So maybe you're meeting here and then you're going to go together to the first house, or they're following you or whatever. So you can do office location or new location. We're going to meet at the Starbucks on the corner and then go from there. Or in the end, you can come back to the office or have some other location as an end. You can do both, either or both. So now let's say hypothetically I want to show these in a different order, which often happens, right? They're not in, hey, let's go to them order. They're in just that grid order. So let's say, just for the sake of simplicity for this example, I want to go geographically, left to right and up, sort of, okay? So what is number 3 right now? What is number 3 right now, number? I want to be number 1. You simply click and hold down and drag it up there. And so now what was number 3 will be number 1. It's kind of picky, so you have to be kind of exactly right on top of the little number 1 slot. It changes the pin on the map, so I know right away, okay, that worked, good. And then again, let's say hypothetically, what is now number 3, I want to come down to the number 4 position, because remember I was going to go geographically left to right. So I need to swap number 3 and 4. You can drag them up, you can drag them down, doesn't matter. So now those are reversed.
I'd want number 3, number 2.
Okay. Thank goodness, because that's wrong. It was bothering me. Okay. It doesn't want to switch for me. There we go.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
See, that's better. I'm so glad you're right there with me. Okay. So now, hypothetically, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's exactly how I need to go. Okay. And again, I could add an end location either manually or my office down at the bottom. I have a couple of basic standard kind of mapping things. Text with point-to-point only, overview only. So basically a big map and little maps is what my first choice is. Just a big map only, or just words only, which is not pretty at all. It's just text, driving directions. I can do avoid tolls, favor freeways, whatever, just a handful of choices there. If I'm feeling European, I can switch to kilometers. I don't know, it's an option. And then I would just click get directions, and it will. So it gives me a big map. Here's the first one and the last one. And here's a list of the properties we're all going to today. And then it gives me from the first property to the second, second to the third, third to fourth, so on and so forth. It gives you a little time and mileage estimate under each one. So from the first house to the second, it'll take me 6.48 miles or 16 minutes in their world. This does not account for Houston traffic, getting out of the car, turning on the alarm, off the alarm lights and whatever. Okay. Yep. Okay. But it's printable and emailable. I don't know if emailable is really a word, but I like to use it all the time. So I can send it to my client. They can have a copy on their phone or whatever, or I can print them paper and hand it to them as they come to the office and I meet them, or whatever I need to do there. It gives you the time and distance estimate under each little turn-by-turn map, but it also gives you a grand total up here at the top. Estimate, again. You know, you have to track your mileage and stuff for tax purposes, right? So I'm sure every day you diligently log every moment of your mileage, just like me. But this gives you kind of a real quick and easy, okay, on that day with that client, 13 miles-ish, or 12-ish miles, round down, okay? So if nothing else, you could use it that way. You can also, like I say, print it. You can do a reverse route planning if you need to do that.
Now, since this is Fusion and you send it to them, they can open it on their iPhone?
It just opens, it's just a plain old email that they get.
Gotcha.
That's right. Plain old regular text. So they don't have to have anything fancy installed or anything like that. Okay? So that is driving directions. We talked a little bit about the quick CMA as kind of a cheat for cumulative days. This comes more handy, of course, when you're actually trying to do a CMA, if you have sold properties, pending properties, and so forth. It gives you your minimum, average, maximum, slow my mouth down a little, of your bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, prices. It gives you your list price and your sales price to list price ratio, which is not shown here, but in sold properties, that's like your golden nugget, where it was listed versus where it sells, right? We don't really care where we listed it. We care mostly we actually can sell. So that little sales price to list price ratio is a nice little
I got a
tidbit
question.
as well.
With those, the
Excuse me.
they would want it on the one that is, you need the CMA on the property close to the one that they picked. It
Say that one more time for me.
What you showed.
Say that one more time for me.
Okay. One of those is in the Woodlands. One is down on in Spring.
Yes, I've totally randomly selected
Yeah.
things, exactly.
So what I'm saying is, if the one they pick, you've got to go in and put properties around that area to give them.
Yes,
the
yes,
proper
yes.
CMA.
Sorry, when I coughed, it just rattled my brain apparently. First time through, it didn't compute at all. But yes, whenever you're doing a CMA, you definitely want to stay geographically as close as possible to your
The
subject.
reason I'm saying that is for the new ones.
Yes, yes, thank you.
This is for me.
Okay.
What is that little thing where we've got a list, this is what you want to show. Where is that little thing that gives you the directions? Where?
It's a little yellow car, top right corner,
Yeah.
Okay.
just to the right of print.
And that gives me,
Driving directions.
I thought there was a little red car somewhere.
Well, there was, but it's someplace else. Where's the red card?
It's under the chiclet. This is driving directions,
It's under
the color-coded things on the left.
House or something.
Yep. Driving directions to just this one house or plan a route.
So it's a chiclet if it refers only to one house.
Correct. Everything under this little icon is specific to that one property. Top right. You got it.
Call it the chicks.
Good job, Maria.
The chicks.
The chicks.
The chiclet, yeah.
Chicks.
And then lastly, up there, the top right corner, we've got the CMA Wizard. Does anybody use the CMA Wizard in Tempo? That kind of 8-step wizard. If you were using it in Tempo, it's the exact same thing in Fusion.
Question, why won't it print?
I don't know. It prints,
What-
so it's probably an internal.
It will not print.
It prints on a lot. So you probably have maybe a setting issue or a printer issue.
Now, wait a minute.
There are no known printing issues with the Wizard, so
It will not print on the Wizard.
it does print, yes. She's having issues printing, but it's not specific to the Wizard.
The only way I can do it is to email it to myself and print.
Have you called the support number to try
I
to?
don't have time to wait for next week when they call me back.
Well, normally if you call, they will